The best thing about being on YouTube is the people that you meet. And this week I want to try and capture an image to mark a very special anniversary for one of the people that I've met while I've been making these videos. And along the way I'm going to also try and tell the story of how I became a photographer. Don't worry, it does all kind of fit together, and that should all become clear by the end of the video. Let me start by explaining where I am this morning. This is Grasmere Lake, and I'm at a point called the Lee, and from here there's a little path that runs alongside the edge of the lake up to Loughrick Fell, and it's really the only part of the lake that you can walk around. And so what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to start here. I'm going to start making my way along the shoreline towards Loughrick Fell, trying to capture a few images along the way. As you can see, conditions are beautiful. We've got a lot of mist over the lake this morning. Really, at this time of year, it's the middle of May. I should really be in the woodlands photographing the bluebells, which is just starting to come to their peak. But for this photograph that I want to create today, it has to be Grasmere. While we're waiting for this mist to start to clear, let me introduce you to Marguerite. Now, some of you may remember that I recently attended a course with Adobe, and Marguerite was one of the other creators on that course. And sometimes you hit it off with people, and we stayed in touch after that course is finished. We speak about once a month, and we talk about YouTube. YouTube can be quite a lonely, difficult place at times, so it's nice to be in touch with other creators, to share ideas and to swap stories, I guess. And I spoke to Marguerite at the beginning of the week, and she let it slip that she has a big birthday coming out next week. In fact, I believe it's on the day that this video is going to go live. And Marguerite's going to turn 30. And so to celebrate that, I want to try and capture an image for her as a birthday gift from me. I did speak a little while ago about how the photographer matters, how the photographer behind a photograph is important. I think what I meant by that is how a photographer is able to put some of their personality into their work, some of their feelings and some of their emotions into their images. I think that's really important, but I think so is the intent when you take a photograph, the purpose of that photograph. So I'm going to try and get an image for Marguerite today, but it's really important that it was Grasmere that featured in that image, and that's really what we're going to discuss. As I said, Margs is turning 30, and that got me thinking about my own 30th birthday, which was some time ago now. It may come as a surprise to some of you, but I'm a little bit older than 30. In fact, truth be told, I'm probably old enough to be Marg's dad. But for my 30th birthday, we came here to Grasmere. I came with my girlfriend at the time and some friends, and we spent the week here. My birthday's in September, just after the school holidays are finished, so we came for a week away. And it was my first visit, or my second visit to the Lake District, my first with my then girlfriend, who ultimately would go on to become Mrs. Sale. At the time I was living in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire, which is where I was born, and it was the first time that Helen and I had come to the Lake District together, and there was an instant connection with the place for us, and it was really the start of a journey that would last for about 8 years. So that was in 2004, and we eventually bought our house on the edge of the Lake District in 2012, and we never actually intended to live in it. It was supposed to be a holiday home, but that's an entirely different story. It is getting brighter, but if anything, I think that fog's getting thicker. So I think I might just wander along and see if I can find something a little bit more interesting in the foreground. Really, the only thing we've got is this fence thing, which is a bit modern, not particularly attractive. So we'll head on, see what we can find in that direction. I can always come back here if the mist starts to lift. In the absence of anything else, thank goodness for a foreground rock. So here I am using the rocks in the foreground to draw the eye up, well, to nothing really, because you can't see across the other side of the lake. What do you reckon? Do you think Margs might be a foreground rock kind of girl? I'm not so sure myself. What I do know, she lives in South Africa with her husband Bry, and beyond YouTube, one of her passions would appear to be running, which I've never been a runner. I don't really understand running. If I was being brutally honest, before I turned 30 and I was still playing rugby, you were lucky to get 40 minutes out of me. So, back to the story. As I said, I turned 30 in 2004, and at the time I wasn't interested in photography. In fact, I didn't buy my first proper camera until the beginning of 2006. And that was a very, very important year for me, because that was the year I got married. And the reason I bought a camera was because we dropped an absolute fortune on the wedding. And we decided that we wanted to go on holiday to the Maldives, and we wanted to capture some memories of that. So I bought a camera to do that, and to try and take some photographs of our honeymoon. So that's how I first developed a small interest in photography. So like most people, when I first got interested in photography, I would take photographs of everything. I did portraiture, I did sports, all sorts of things. But it soon became very apparent that my real passion was for landscapes. I grew up on the edge of the Chiltern Hills, and I would spend a lot of time photographing the woodlands around there and some of the views from places like Ivinghoe Beacon. But I also started to photograph the reservoirs and the Grand Union canals close to where I grew up and where I went to school in Marsworth, and I went to school in Tring. And so water has been a big part of my photography right from the very start of my journey. Now, as the mist has started to lift, it has revealed that the island is conveniently placed directly behind these rocks. Who knew? Now, if Margs was here, I definitely know that she would not use a polarizer for this shot, because she wouldn't want to cut through the glare on the water. She'd want to leave that there as much as possible. And also getting slightly lower also helps, because you're not looking down through the water and you get more glare. Now, I think this might be the shot. This might be the one that I give to Margs for her birthday. Now, I'm really happy with that shot. I think it could be the one, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm not going to rest on my laurels, not for Margs. So I'm going to carry on and see if I can find something else a little bit further along the shoreline. Fast forward 6 years, from 2006 to 2012, when we bought our house here in the Lake District, and that's when my photography took a step up. I started to become really inspired by this landscape, and that caused me to do more and more and more photography. My photography has always been about sharing my passion for this place, That's very similar to another photographer, Nick Livesey, who recently, in an interview that he gave on the Case Filters channel, talked about how his photography is very much about documenting his life in Snowdonia. And I'm very much the same. My photography is all about my experiences here in the Lake District. Nick admits that he doesn't travel very well as far as photography is concerned. When he travels, he tends to do more walking than photography. And I'm exactly the same. I only want to photograph this area. This is my passion. My love for the Lake District comes before my love for photography. This is going to be my final shot. I think it could be quite a nice one. I've got this boathouse here, which I'm putting on to one side, and that's looking out into the lake, and in the distance there's a little white house that stands out. Now, I think this could have been an absolutely super shot had I been here a month, 6 weeks ago, because we've got some daffodils here and they would have been in bloom, and that could have been just added up a little something extra. Unfortunately now they've got sort of dead heads on them, but I don't think I can be blamed for that. I think this is Margs' fault for not being born at a more appropriate time for landscape photography here in the Lake District. So yeah, I definitely can't be blamed, but I think this is going to be my final shot. One final little technical point to consider. We are looking towards where the sun is rising, and although it's cloudy, the sky is very bright, and that means that we are going to have to bracket. So I'll be taking 3 exposures and we'll blend those together somehow, maybe HDR, maybe a bit of luminosity masking. But by doing that we should get a little bit more detail in the shadows. So there you go. That's the story of how I got started in photography and why I always shoot here in the Lake District. If you want to see which image I've chosen for Margs for her birthday, then do pop along to my Instagram account and all will be revealed. I doubt there are going to be any surprises. And all that's left for me to do is to wish Margs a very, very happy 30th birthday, and I hope that your 30s are as good for you as they were for me.